Hello, everybody. It's Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. Thank you so much for joining me for a new Tuesday tip video. Today, we're going to be talking about patchwork border cards. This is such a fabulous layout, and you're going to be amazed at how little paper or designer series paper it takes to create this. I've got two incredible cards to share with you, so let's get started. If you enjoyed the video today, I would love a thumbs up on YouTube. Thank you so much for that. And if you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button, ring the bell so YouTube can give you notifications when I'm back with a new video. While you're at it, if you've got some crafty friends, share the channel with them as well. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I can't wait to stamp with you next time. Bye-bye.
So what do you think of the patchwork border cards? Aren't these lovely? I was very, very pleased with how these turned out. We're going to be creating two cards today. So the first card I'm going to teach you, I'm going to show you how to do the stamping and how to do the cutting. But if you want to use your designer series paper, I've got a card for you that we can create with that. And what you're going to love about this card, guys, it doesn't take much to create the focal image on the front. This is a 2x11 basic white cardstock. We're going to create everything with just that. And on my designer series paper, it takes half a sheet of 6x6. So a little 3x6. We'll be using both sides, and that's what we'll use to create our second card. We're going to start with our Birthday Blooms stamped card first. Before I get too involved, I want you to know that this card definitely has some cutting that we're going to be doing, and I want to make that easy for you guys. I have a free download that goes along with my video today, and all of your measurements are here, so don't worry about writing down the measurements. I have those for you. I have photos, a link back to the video. Click here and you can get my any of the supplies that I used on the card. By the way, there's all the supplies, but today's download has a bonus. How about a free diagram on how to do the cutting? I know the diagrams make it super easy for you. All right, where can you get this? You can look down in the YouTube description. I've got a direct link that will take you to today's post where you can find this, or you can just head over to SimplySimpleStamping.com. It will be there for you as well. And I'm going to be featuring the textured floral stamp set. Now, this stamp set does come with matching dies if you'd like to order the matching dies. You don't absolutely have to have them for today's card, but I do want to show you. I did die cut this flower right here. So if you have the dies, you can use them. If you don't, not to worry, this would be a very simple flower to fussy cut. All right. Well, now we're going to bring in our diagram because we need to do some cutting on this 2x11 piece of basic white. And you can see here, the first thing we want to do is cut it down to 2 by 6 3/4. All right, we have trimmed that. I'm going to set that off to the side because we're going to do our stamping on that one. All right, so with what's remaining, you can see we need to cut to 2 7/8. Now, I know 8s aren't our favorite, but that is in between 2 3/4 and 3. So just find the center of 2 3/4 by 3. That is going to be my 2 7/8, and you see we need to cut it down to 1 5/8. And the 1 5/8 is in between 1 1/2 and 1 3/4. So you can see we're just going to take a little hair off of that. We do have this little piece that's remaining. I want you to hold on to that because that's what we're going to use to stamp and die cut our little bonus flower. Now there is more cutting to do, but we are going to do our stamping first, and I'll show you how we're going to cut that. I'm using 3 gorgeous colors today: Bubble Bath, Berry Burst, and Garden Green. I'm actually going to start with my Bubble Bath ink, and I'm going to just randomly stamp these flowers in Bubble Bath all over that 6 3/4 by 2 inches of cardstock. Now we'll come in with our Garden Green, and I'm going to take this little, I think it's meant to be the inside of a flower, but you know what? I thought it looked really great. It's just kind of some leaves coming off of here. And you can see I'm just sort of randomly stamping. We're going to want to fill this with color and with images. And if you overlap a little bit, that is perfectly fine. And now for that Berry Burst. This is the color that when it comes to matching this with the Garden Green and the Bubble Bath, it is absolutely amazing. So we're going to stamp this little center here in my flowers. Again, we want very random, so there's not really a right or wrong way on where to stamp it. Look at that. Isn't that so pretty, those colors? Now, the last thing I want to do is I have this little speckle stamp. Do you see? It's just a speckle. And actually, I want to ink it, and I want to stamp off once. And then I'm just going to lightly stamp these speckles a few times. Okay? Stamp off, stamp a few speckles, stamp off. We want very light and also very random. See how that kind of fills everything in? Now we're going to finish up these other pieces. So I will stamp, like I said, we just want one flower there. Let me go ahead and get the center of that flower. I'm going to set that aside. And here is our sentiment, and we're going to say, birthday blooms for you. When you stamp this, if you'll stamp it over on the right side and over on the left, I want you to just stamp a couple of our leaves. Our flower is going to go right there. Okay. You're also going to need a piece of basic white, 3 3/4 by 5. I'm going to start with my sentiment, and this I'm going to kind of stamp off to the right side a little bit, but I'll do that in some berry burst. Every thought of you makes me smile. And I'm going to take that flower again in bubble bath right there. And then I just came in and stamped a couple more of the leaves. All right, all the stamping is done. Now we're ready to cut up that very first piece. This would be the piece that we stamped all over. Very simple cutting. So we're going to cut this in half at 1 inch. Remember, this was 2 inches, so that's easy enough. We'll cut it in half. That will get us our 2 1 inch by 6 3/4. I'm actually just going to hold these together, and we'll cut these down to 4, and that will leave my 2 3/4. So all of my cutting for my patchwork, you can see I'm all ready to go. Now here's what we need for the rest of our card. I've got a piece of Berry Burst cardstock, 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored at 5 1/2. And then I have 2 pieces of garden green. These are 4 by 5 1/4. I have one. I'm going to adhere that to the front. I'm going to adhere the remaining to the inside. Let's go ahead. We're going to add the inside of our card. Are you just crazy over those colors? They just, I'm so in love with them. All right, now let's create our patchwork pieces. So these are going to adhere down, and I'm going to lay them out first. All right, I want to lay them out before I adhere them because I want to make sure I do it correctly. So you can see I have a long one up at the top, a short, a long, a short, okay? And then, of course, my stamped sentiment will go right there. Now, this kind of gives me that opportunity to lay it all out, get an idea of where my spacing is going to be. I'm going to adhere everything except my sentiment. I really want that one to stay to the end. So we're going to adhere these down. Your favorite adhesive here is going to be great. Here is my tip when adhering these. So I'm going to put some adhesive on the first piece, and I'm going to lay it in place, but I don't want to tap it down hard. I'm just going to lay it there, all right? Just lay it. That way, if I need to move anything, I still have the ability to move these pieces around. And I can already see that very first piece I laid down, it needs to come down just a skosh. Our sentiment, this is actually going to go on with some Stampin' Dimensionals. Again, just to kind of give it that stepped up look. Now, we had that flower that we stamped. And remember, I said you could either use the matching die and you could die cut that, or you can fussy cut it. It really is not a difficult one to fussy cut. Either way, we're going to cut out that flower. I've added a touch of adhesive right here and a Stampin' Dimensional just off of my sentiment, because I want to kind of decide where I want to put that flower, and I want to be able to adhere it down. It's looking good, but it needs something, right? So what I have done is I've created a bow here, and I left the tails kind of long. This is actually with the Sweet Sorbet metallic ribbon, but look at how pretty it looks with that berry burst. And I'm going to show you my trick to adding this because the bow is so little. We're going to take a mini glue dot and I'm going to roll this into a tiny little ball. And I'm going to put it just down here at the bottom, okay? And I can now press the center of my bow right on there. And now I don't have any glue sticking out. Isn't it sweet? Let's do one more thing. Festive pearls. These are some of my favorite embellishments. Maybe it's because I love anything that's shiny. But there are some red pearls. But you know what? When you pair it with that berry burst, I want you to see what happens. It's like the shine in it, it just picks up that berry burst instead of red. Now, if I paired it with red or with sweet sorbet or poppy parade, it kind of picks up that color as well. But there we go. Oh my gosh. I mean, what a great way to create a card. We didn't need a lot of cardstock, did we? And we had some fun because we did that creative cutting. Now I want to share with you my other card that I did with designer series paper because this one actually has a little bit different cutting diagram. We have this diagram right here. So let's go over that. My designer series paper is from the Hello Irresistible. Love this one and I liked it especially because both sides kind of complemented each other. Let's go over our cutting. All right, so for this one, it tells us to cut our paper into 3 1x6 strips. Well, that's easy enough. We know it's a 3x6, so we can cut this into our 3 1x6 strips. I'm going to take 2 of those, and just like we did before, I'm just going to put them together because I can easily cut through 2 of these at a time. And it says you're going to cut 2 of them into 1x4 pieces. And that remaining will cut into 2 2 3/4 by 1. All right, let's talk measurements for this card. My card base is going to be in petal pink. And just like before, 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5.5. The 2 pieces we're going to use on the outside and the inside, Flirty Flamingo. I'm going to go ahead and adhere those to the outside and the inside of my card. And then I have 3 pieces of white. So this is a 3 3/4 by 5. This will be for our inside sentiment. This is the sentiment on the front. So this would be a 2 7/8 by 1 5/8. And the last piece, this is going to be used, this is really some scrap. This is going to be used for stamping. That's how we're going to stamp and either die cut or fussy cut the flower from the Irresistible Bloom stamp set. And yes, there is a die set that you can purchase separately if you want. But like I said, you can fussy cut this one. Our pieces are already cut. So how about we go ahead and adhere those? We're going to do this in the exact same manner we did before, only I'm going to flip this paper around so that I get to showcase both sides. And you can decide which side you want to use. You could mix and match this and bring in all kinds of different designer series paper. We're going to do just like we did before. Let's adhere these down. My 2 ink pad colors for this card, Flirty Flamingo and Old Olive. All right, let's start with our Flirty Flamingo. I'm going to bring in that grid paper one more time. There are 2 flowers in this set. I'm going to be using the smaller one. So let's stamp a flower and Flirty Flamingo right there. While we've got this out, I'm going to go ahead and bring in, remember this is the scrap. I think mine is about 2.5 by 4. And I'll stamp a flower right there. Oh, and before I forget, let me get my thank you sentiment. Just like before, I'm going to stamp that over on the right side of my 2 7/8 by 1 5/8. And for the inside of my card, I'm going to say, I couldn't be happier to have you as a friend. Okay, now I think I can set that off to the side, but remember, we will be using it again. So now for some Old Olive, I'm going to add some leaves there. And then on this piece, again, that scrap, I'm going to add some Old Olive leaves there. Okay, now we're going to do some fun blending. I love blending brushes. I think these are so much fun because we're going to give this just a really nice soft look. I'm going to start with the Old Olive. I'm not going to use the small blending brushes, but if you have the larger ones, that works too. You see the ink is pretty dark. So I always like to kind of get a little bit of that off first. And watch what I'm going to do. I'm just going to color in, but I'm going to make it really nice and soft. Isn't that nice? Let's do it again right here, just kind of going around those leaves. Okay, easy peasy. Now let's repeat that, and we're going to do that now with the Flirty Flamingo. Again, just like before, we got to get some of that stronger ink off so that we're starting with a nice soft color. One thing I always like to tell you, you can always add more, but you can't take it away. So that's the other reason I always like to start off softer, because I know I can add more. Isn't that pretty? Let's do the same thing right here with this flower, and with the flower and leaf that are on this one, we can either use the dies or we can fussy cut these, whichever one is easiest for you. I love die cutting, so I definitely went with the die cuts, but I just had to show you this set is so much more than flowers and leaves. Look at these fabulous shapes. Really is a great set. Okay, it's time to put this card together. So let's start with our sentiment in the middle. And remember, we add that with Stampin' Dimensionals right there in the center. Now for our flower and leaves, we can go ahead and adhere those together so we kind of know where they're going to go. Just a little adhesive just there on the back of our flower, and we can add our leaves. Then, of course, you can kind of decide where you want your flower to go. Remember how we did the last one with dimensionals? You can see it's really only the leaves on mine that are going to need a dimensional. And honestly, I think I'm just going to really need one, because majority of that, I want some adhesive right here. So we'll get a little adhesive on our flower. I will remove this backing. It's kind of fun because you just sort of never know what direction things are going to go, but I like that. Now, just like before, it needs some ribbon and bling. I'm going to be using the silver and gold combo trim. Isn't that gorgeous? I don't know, something about that gold in those colors. I'm going to put this one up here in the corner. We're going to do that the exact same way that we did our last one, where we rolled that mini glue dot. Look, I got ink all over me. Yay, it's going to be one of those days. All right, I'm going to add my bow right here. Again, having that rolled up means I don't have any excess. Now to come back in with the festive pearls, and this time we're going to go with the gold ones, because again, it's the shine of that ribbon and the shine of these gold festive pearls that just make this such a wow card. And there you go. We've got the nice soft look of those blending brushes there on the inside and on the outside. Just a fantastic card. So there we go, my friends. Patchwork border cards. Remember, this stamped image can be anything you want. Designer series paper, half a sheet of 6x6, and you're going to be able to create this card. Don't forget to grab that free download. I want you to have that along with my free diagram so you can create this easily. Friends, you'll find that at simplysimplestamping.com, or look down in the YouTube description.
If you enjoyed the video today, I would love a thumbs up on YouTube. Thank you so much for that. And if you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button, ring the bell so YouTube can give you notifications when I'm back with a new video. While you're at it, if you've got some crafty friends, share the channel with them as well. Thank you everyone for being here. I can't wait to stamp with you next time. Bye-bye.